Earlier this month, I mentioned that if you wanted to send questions in to me, that I would answer them on the YouTube videos. So we're going to begin that process tonight. I have our first question, which came from a young lady who is on my emailing list, and she says, the question is, why is my grandmother now here with me at this time? I have a very good friend who sees her, but I cannot as yet, and she wants me to know that she is with me now. Well, there was other email that went back and forth between us, and it turns out that this young lady's mother, who is the daughter of the grandmother who is appearing, is suffering from dementia and is really wanting to leave the earth but is afraid to. So what this person is really asking me, as she said in other emails, is what do I do? Well, first of all, let's ask the question or answer the question about grandmother. Grandmother is obviously here because her daughter, this person's mother, is getting ready to pass over. Even though she's afraid, she's making preparations within herself, within her soul. This is what her heart wants. And so someone from the other side, who is her mother, which is a wonderful guide, is coming to say, let me help you across. Let me show you that there's nothing to be afraid of. Now, the fact that this person's friend saw the grandmother around her granddaughter is of great assistance to the granddaughter because she knows she's not alone in assisting her mother from this side to move over. So it's really an assistance process that is happening here. And it's quite lovely, and it happens a lot. It happens more than you might know, where someone from the other side will come forward and say, let me help. It isn't as frightening as you think it is. It isn't confusing. And much like a tour guide, say you went to Egypt and you didn't know quite where to go or how to get into the pyramids or what temples you should see. And your guide says, let me help you. Let me show you that it's easy to do this. And so basically that is what is happening here. Now, having answered that question, there's a couple of things that came up for me when I read the emails, and I responded to this young lady and I told her what was coming up for me. The fact that her friend can see the grandmother and can sense her and tells her friend this is of assistance too, and yet it takes away the ability that the person who sent the email to me already has of seeing the grandmother. She says she can't see the grandmother yet or know that the grandmother is there. Part of the reason is because she's relying on her friend. Even if she subconsciously is doing it, she still is. So she's saying, I can't do this, will you do this for me? And as you well know, there's a lot of people, you might be one of them, I don't know, who do this, who say, would you help me do this? Would you help me access this information? We all have access to the information on the other side, on all sides. Cosmic consciousness exists within you. It isn't something out there. It isn't something you have to go and look for. The beings who are not in body anymore, for instance, my mother and my father, my sister, they're not in body, and yet they are here sitting in this chair with me based on the essence of non-locality as much as and more than if they were physically in the room with me. So I just want to pass this little caveat along that if you really wish to access information or to speak with beings on the other side or connect with your relatives who have passed on, don't rely on somebody else. You can do it yourself. So what's the easiest way to do it? The easiest way is to have something that they possessed when they were in body. For instance, this is a piece of cloth that belonged to a bedspread that my grandmother made for my mother years and years and years ago when my mother was a little girl, and my mother passed on in 1993. So if I wanted to connect with my mother and connect from me here in the physical to her in the non-physical, the easiest thing for me to do is to get real quiet, and that means nothing going on in the environment, nothing else on your mind. Don't do it just before you have to fix dinner or while the kids are running around. I mean quiet silence, so that you can become totally coherent within your heart. And then as you do that, holding the physical piece of whatever it is that you have, for instance, this cloth, or it might be a book, it might be some jewelry, it might be a favorite artifact of a family member or a friend, whoever it is you want to contact. Use that as your connecting point, realizing that this holds the essence of my mother, this holds the essence of my grandmother. Not only that, it holds the essence of why it was made. They lived through the Depression. The fabric that makes this bedspread, because that's what it was, is actually remnants from dresses my grandmother made for my mother as a child. She saved every scrap. She gathered them up and she made a bedspread, a blanket out of it, because they couldn't afford to buy one. That feeling is here too. So don't forget that part of whatever you're holding. Be aware that you are holding the essence of the totality of that person, and in this case actually two people. There's a lot of complexity that can come up for you. It's not simply hold the bedspread, call mom, and here she comes. You are allowing yourself to exhibit within your body a wavelength that is summoning, that is beckoning, kind of like picking up the telephone and dialing a number. And when you reach the person on the other side, through that telephone, you don't know if they're busy, you don't know if they're doing something else. Just like when you call someone unannounced, you don't know what's going on. All of those complexities are interwoven in the transmission. And so I like to ask myself another question too sometimes, before I do any work like this. Why am I trying to contact the person? Am I lonely? Do I miss them? Do I think they have information for me? Do I want to prove I can do it? Do I want to tell somebody else, oh, guess what, I talked to the other side? What's the reason? Because what you're actually doing is interrupting the flow of their life. They're not really dead, you know. They're simply not in the physical body anymore. And they have gone on to live in another country, so to speak. So if you had a friend who had just moved to Europe and you missed them, would you be calling them up every day saying, oh, I really want to talk to you? And they'd say, okay, I have to go on with my life, you know. Well, it's the same thing. Just because they're not in a physical body does not mean that they're not busy. So take these little questions to heart and ask yourself really why you want to contact them. Because usually the reason is that you miss them because you're used to their physical presence and you want to be able to connect with them again. Once is good, and let it go. There isn't any reason to constantly have to tap in to the other realm. Life is to be lived here. Your experiences are to be enjoyed here on earth, in the body you're in, so that when you have your turn to leave this body and to go on, that you'll feel free to do so and not feel like everybody is saying, oh, don't go, stay here with us. When you know that there's a world, a realm of divine pleasure and joy waiting for you outside of this physical body. So, long answer to short question, and I certainly hope that you will send questions in. I have a very small backlog of them for the next few videos, and it will be very much fun, and I'm sure that all of the questions that are being asked are things that apply to all of us, so we can all enjoy them together. Thank you so much for being with me. Until the next time, namaste.